So now I would love to welcome Marissa to the TechTO stage. So let's bring Marissa up. Now, Marissa is going to introduce herself and share a little bit more about how to make our tech careers work for us. Is that right?
That is right. Excited to be here, Jason. Awesome. Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm going to give it a couple seconds to get my presentation pulled up here. I'm Marissa. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Toast. We can go to the next slide. Toast is not a food company. Actually, I was just asked that in one of our one-on-ones, which was kind of made me chuckle a little bit. We're also not a point of sale company, but instead we are a membership collective for women in tech by women in tech. So we were founded to flip the hiring dynamic in favor of women. We can go on over to the next slide. Our mission is to help women do the work that they want for the pay they deserve and with a community that supports them. So what that looks like in practice is that we have a membership community for women in tech to meet other women, get tips on the job hunt, salary negotiation. We just had a great severance negotiation workshop. We help contract employees do all the paperwork, and really having also work with companies that are committed to diversifying and hiring more women on their teams. So we have about 30 partner companies that we work with right now that are all have goals to create more gender diversity on their technical teams, and we are super excited to support them in that. So I'm going to go into a little bit about my background and how I kind of got into tech, and we'll go from there. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see a photo of me as my first day of school, ready to conquer the world. But I want to talk a little bit about how the experience in tech looks a little bit different for women compared to men. So we know that women are at least, for me, I grew up in a family with very traditional gender roles. I was always taught to defer to boys as the experts. We know that girls are now at a point where they outperform boys in math and science, but are turned away from pursuing those subjects as early as grade school. I saw one study the other day that said as early as kindergarten, which is very, very young. We also know that women are taught from a very young age not to negotiate. So, nice girls don't ask for more. And for me, I was taught and it was instilled in me very young that I just have to work hard, and that work is going to speak for itself. And, someone's going to come along and offer me a job and offer me loads of money. But I've definitely learned along the way that that's not quite the case. We'll go on to the next slide. Cool. So why do we need to care about having women in tech? Really, I'd ask if you've worked on technical teams, whether you're a male or a female, just think about how many women are on your teams. For myself, I've been in the product space for the last 7 years. I've been in the data and AI space for the last 3. And definitely the further I've gotten along in my career, the less and less women I see. Usually I am that lonely only within meetings, but we do know that it is important to have women. It's good for customers. We need to build products that represent everyone. Women account for 51% of our population. And they need to be in the driver's seat just as much as men to be able to build products that work for them. Especially within a world powered by AI, we know that we've had instances. You see instances of Apple using disproportionate data on their Apple Watch. So women using the Apple Watch or women using Siri are less likely to get accurate results. We need women to be able to produce good products. It's also good for business. So we know more diverse teams, more gender diverse teams are proven to produce better business results and more positively impact the bottom line. And I think we've seen a lot of companies really get on board with this over the last couple years. And it's good for the economy. McKinsey came out with a study recently about women at work. And one of the noteworthy pieces in regards to women in tech is that with tech being such a huge potential for growth, such a high growth industry with such high salaries, if we don't have women keeping up at the same pace, it's only going to increase the gender diversity, or sorry, the gender wage gap. Let's go on to the next slide here. Okay, so I want everyone to kind of think about if you were kind of climbing up that career ladder, you know, you're a junior dev, you're going to get to that intermediate level, and then you're going to get to that senior level. But what if the next rung on your ladder just completely broke and you just didn't have anything to hold on to? What would kind of be your reaction? And really that is the case for many women, especially women of color. Women who go on maternity leave and return to work don't have the same opportunities, especially because there are not as many women up at the top to be able to sponsor and bring others along. So if we go to the next slide, really I want everyone to kind of think of a career less like a ladder and more like a jungle gym. This is my jungle gym of a career. So I definitely had some false starts. I came out of school and thought, you know, I was 17. I just had to go into school and do something. So I was like, I'm going to be a medical office assistant. I don't know why. It was a short program. That was not for me, but I did like the science portion of it. Started my science degree, worked as a receptionist and a file clerk for 3 years. And really that allowed me to begin to understand, you know, the corporate roles and the building relationships and understanding politics. But ultimately, I fell into a role in skilled trades recruitment. And I can tell you that even though that's not where I ended up, that's probably the role where I have learned the most. If anyone has ever been in Fort McMurray at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for a stolen work truck by someone who thought they were being abducted by aliens, definitely we should connect. So definitely have some war stories there. And it taught me how to work under pressure for sure. And I decided for some crazy reason that it was it was a field that I wanted to pursue. So I did a diploma in HR. I went and finished my BCom, and I got into talent acquisition. I was doing recruitment at a bank out in Alberta, and really enjoyed my time there. I think when I started, I invested a lot into building my personal brand and ensuring that I knew the right people in the organization and that they knew me and what I could bring and what type of work they can expect from me, whether I was reporting to them or not. And when the time came, I was actually hiring product managers. The bank decided they were going to start building software in-house. And one of those sponsors that I had within the organization tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, do you want to come work in product management?" It wasn't something that was as common as it is today. So I was literally Googling, like, what is a product manager? It was one of the most challenging things I've ever done, was making that big leap into tech. It was definitely a struggle, but I was able to kind of lean on some of my innate abilities and really start to specialize within data and AI product management. Went on to lead conversational AI products at Scotiabank. And then from there, decided to pursue my master's of management in AI, and really kind of follow that niche area into data and AI consulting, and founded Toast, which is a whole new adventure and kind of a perfect marriage of all of my experience. I'm going to go on to the next slide here. So making that great leap into tech, oh, my GIF isn't working, but really this is how I felt when I first got into tech, was that I really have no idea what I'm doing, probably for the first 2 years, but people were telling me I was doing it well, so really, there we go. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for putting that in there. That was very fast, actually. So as I said, there's a few things that really helped me in my journey. One, having a growth mindset. I think that's probably something, in that moment, I could probably tell you, I was like, no, I do not have a growth mindset. I don't know what I'm doing. But looking back at it, I think being able to overcome problems and really having anything put in front of me and figuring it out. I didn't know anything about agile. I didn't know anything about software development. I was put on a corporate banking product. I had no idea about corporate banking. And so really having that growth mindset, because no one knows the answer. You just kind of got to figure it out and be resourceful. Again, establishing your personal brand right from the beginning. What do people know you as, and who's going to put up their hand and speak for you when you're not in the room. And I think that comes down to understanding what your innate skills are. So not so much those technical skills that you bring to the role, but what else? What are your leadership skills? Whether you're in a leadership position or not, really, what are the things that have gotten you to this point in your life? And utilizing your network. I think this is highly underrated. People don't want to ask for things. Going to your network, I think especially now making a transition to being a founder, going into your network and asking people for things. You'll be so surprised by how many people will open up doors for you and make introductions. For Toast, like sometimes I'm like, I hate selling. I don't want to feel like I'm selling things to people and I'm trying to sell my services or my product, but people know me and understand my brand. And when I go to them and I ask, they're always more than willing. So I think just reaching out and like not having a problem asking people to open up their network, asking people to introduce you. And then, of course, future-proofing yourself. So how do you set yourself up to kind of find that niche for you in the future? What does that path look like? We'll go on to the next slide. I have a few questions that you can ask yourself. My formatting. So you could ask yourself, what are the core values I live by when I have full autonomy? So that doesn't mean what are the core values that the last company I worked at wanted me to have or told me that this is what I should have, but really what are your core values that 10 years ago, if you were in a situation that you still would live by, that's what's going to differentiate you. For me, and it's probably no surprise that I'm now in a mission-driven company, but like doing the right thing has always been incredibly important to me. And that translates to quality, making sure I'm always putting out a quality product. That also translates to the type of company that I would want to work with. And I think authenticity and walking the talk is incredibly important to me, myself, and my life. And I've always tried to align with companies and roles that are doing the same. What do people tell me I am good at? I think this is really important because sometimes it's hard for us to see ourselves. So, what I've done, and one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten, was to save every piece of recognition, every piece of, props or kudos that I've ever had. And I have just like this big PowerPoint deck that is like moved with me from company to company, where I just like, I get a recognition, I screenshot it, or like someone sends me a nice email telling me I did a good job. I don't even like process it really. I just like screenshot it, put it in the PowerPoint. And then when you're in a situation where you're like, how do I share the deck? Yeah, right, Jason. That's for my eyes only. But when you're in a situation where you're applying for another job, or you're just, we all go through these ebbs and flows in our career, and sometimes it can feel like you're a little stuck. But if you can go back and say, hey, this person had a really interesting point, or here's a common thread that I've seen through the advice, or not through the advice, through the kudos that people have given me over the years. It's just a really good way to be able to understand how other people see you, and to be how to sell yourself to a future employer. Um, Again, what is my default response when I encounter a problem? And I think that goes back to that growth mindset, and being really honest with yourself. Um, is your default response like, I don't like, I don't like confrontation, and so I just try to avoid it, and that's okay. I'm there with you. But it just kind of tells you really where you should go, and what types of roles and positions and companies are going to be good for you. Is knowing how you respond to things, and being self-aware. And that's okay to talk about in an interview. It is all right to bring up your weaknesses. It shows how self-aware you are. That's definitely what interviewers want to hear. And what do I want to be known for? And I think that can be a big, profound question, but that can also be, hey, I have experience within the financial services field, and I have experience within AI and data business strategy. And if you were to be a consultant one day, like, how would you sell your services? What would your niche be? And so those are just kind of some questions that I think everyone should kind of think about when they are looking at what differentiates them. And definitely speak to those. Build your resumes around those. Build your LinkedIn profiles around those, and have honest and authentic conversations about them. Cool. I'm going to go to the next slide. That's it for me, but I want to wrap up with some information about Toast. So one, if you are a woman in tech, our community currently has a 30-day free trial offer until the end of this month. So if you sign up before Feb 28th, you can take advantage of that at trytoast.ca. We also have an International Women's Day event at 111 on March 9th. That is open to everyone. Our panel is 50-50 male-female, and we are talking about actionable allyship. And then, of course, if you want to hire more women, if you see that there is a discrepancy of, on your technical teams, definitely email me and Marissa at TryToast. And my LinkedIn profile, I believe, is also linked somewhere here. Cool.
Awesome job, Marissa. Let's get a round of virtual applause. Can we see it? And maybe some toast. Can you see the toast?
Definitely some toast.
So awesome. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance, Marissa, while you were delivering how to make your tech career work for you, some of the awesome comments, but people are loving it. Really great advice. A lot of people thinking that the PowerPoint presentation was really smart, said Alta, which is good because I've been keeping a PowerPoint of all the criticisms that have been coming my way. So I've been doing it wrong.
That's good.
Which is great. But look, Marissa, if you have a couple extra minutes, we have some amazing questions from the community that I would love to ask. So we have this one from Gurashish, who asks, in the age of constant change, how do you future proof yourself? Is it like a mindset, or is there a set of skills? Like, how have you done it? But how do you also suggest that like other folks in their careers do it?
Yeah, I do think it's a little bit of both. I think, we look at like ChatGPT, which has just blown our world up, and it's now an everyday word. I think there is a mindset around how you encounter that, but there's also a mindset around what you're going to do with that. I think a lot of the roles that are going to come from ChatGPT, we can either sit back and wait for them to come so that we can apply to them, or you can start building your expertise and positioning yourself in the market um, to get ahead of that. So I think it's all about positioning. If you think of yourself as a commodity that you're marketing, what type of position do you want to play in this marketplace of talent?
I love that. Almost thinking of yourself as a product in of itself, and how
Exactly.
you position it is super cool. We have a ton of questions, so we're not going to get to all of them. But hey, Marissa, if we'll ask one or two more, if we send you these questions after, would you write some answers for us and we can send them out to folks here?
Yes, for sure. Of course. Definitely.
Cool. Oh, awesome. So, a couple ones I'm just gonna pick because I'm the host, so I get to pick some of my favorites. Um, yeah, this is one that I thought would be pretty cool for folks that are going through interview processes. Rachel asks, "What is your answer to the age-old interview question of what is your biggest weakness?"
Oh man, like my personal. I think there's, as I said, like I think in terms of like confrontation, I don't think I see it as a weakness,
Mhm.
but like where do you stand? And I think really understanding, you know, I'm actually not a big fan of confrontation. Here's how I handle problems. Instead, here's what types of things work for me. Um, I probably have a long list of biggest weakness. I think it depends on the situation. I
That's a
won't go
different
into my
PowerPoint deck.
criticism deck, but
That's yeah, that's right.
yeah.
That's awesome. And the last one that I want to ask is from Ebenezer. And Ebenezer asks, how transferable is being a prior founder to a product manager role?
Ooh, I think it's incredibly transferable. I went the opposite way. So I went from being a product manager to a founder. And I think it's, as a founder, like really you are, and I was having this conversation earlier with someone that really you have a product, whether that's a product or a service, like you have a product, you're looking at what type of features go into that product, and then how do you take that to market. So you really are, doing product management just on a much bigger scale. And I think it's so, so transferable. You're probably overqualified to be a product manager, but it's all about how you sell it.
I love it. Right back to that positioning. Marissa, this was so cool. Thank you so much. I think what you and what Toast is doing to support women's careers in tech is just super important. And I hope that some of the folks that are here tonight are able to join you on March 9th at
Yeah.
111.
Yeah, I would love that.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Thanks so
having
much,
me.
Marissa.
Thanks, Jason.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that was amazing, Marissa. I appreciate you.